Welcome back to the AI Breakdown Brief, all the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with a set of stories surrounding Amazon and their latest moves in the AI race. This morning, the company announced that they would be bringing generative AI to the customer review experience. Now, credit to Amazon for trying to turn something that is completely commonplace and normal for consumers into a feature worthy of note. Their announcement blog post reads, "Customer reviews are one of the oldest and most important features on Amazon. When we first launched reviews in 1995, the idea was radical. People scratched their heads when we said we wanted to give customers the opportunity to voice their honest opinions on products, the good, the bad, and everything in between. While the idea wasn't universally embraced, it was embraced by our customers." The post then goes through all the updates the company has made over the years as reviews like those on Amazon have become commonplace across the web. They point to features like the ability to include a review title, photos, and videos, or leaving a number of stars instead of a review as an alternative. Ultimately, they say, we obsess over helping customers feel confident in their purchase decisions. And that brings them to their new AI features. The simple core of the idea is that rather than having to read through dozens and dozens or even hundreds of reviews, generative AI can help summarize the key themes from across the reviews, giving the potential buyer of a product a high-level view of, in general, what other customers think about it. In addition to just a high-level summary, the new feature also allows users to single-click drill down on a type of attribute that they're interested in. For example, they say, a customer looking to understand whether a product is easy to use can easily surface reviews mentioning ease of use by tapping on that product attribute under the review highlight. Initially, these review tools will be rolled out to a part of the US audience, specifically those using mobile devices, and on what Amazon calls a broad selection of products. During this testing phase, the company is hoping to fine-tune its AI models to improve how they work and figure out what changes need to be made before they get rolled out more generally across all products and all users. Now, this is hardly the sort of earth-shaking, revolutionary announcement that we sometimes have here on the AI Breakdown Brief. But on the flip side, what it represents is a very clear and frankly sort of obvious use case where generative AI does seem very likely to be able to significantly improve a core consumer experience on the web. For those trying to understand how much of what people are saying and thinking and doing with AI right now is just hype versus real, inevitably the longer it goes, the more we're going to have these types of stories, which, if not necessarily as exciting as some of the most hyped announcements, still actually push the field in general more towards utility. Now, of course, this isn't without challenge. Amazon has to block hundreds of millions of fake reviews every single year. But ultimately, that's a big game of whack-a-mole. And just as with any other type of generative AI, garbage in, garbage out. In fact, with these types of tools, some are worried that fake reviews may be even harder to distinguish, which would ultimately make these summaries a lot less helpful. As a first step, Amazon is saying that it will only summarize reviews from verified purchases, but it seems likely that this is going to be an ongoing battle as the company tries to make this feature really the best that it can be. One more bit of news from Amazon. Last week, we discussed a number of times the larger battle surrounding advanced AI chips. Specifically, we looked at all the different competitors for NVIDIA, the dominant force in that field, including efforts from the big tech companies themselves to build their own custom chip solutions. Amazon is certainly in on this particular fight. AWS CEO Adam Selipsky told CNBC in an interview in June, quote, "The entire world would like more chips for doing generative AI, whether that's GPUs or whether that's Amazon's own chips that we're designing. I think that we're in a better position than anybody else on Earth to supply the capacity that our customers collectively are going to want." A new CNBC piece discusses Amazon's effort in this field. And now AWS has more than 20 million chips in use. In 2015, they bought an Israeli chip startup, Annapurna Labs. In 2018, Amazon launched its ARM-based server chip, Gravitron. That same year, they also launched their first AI-focused chips, which was, of course, 2 years after Google first announced its Tensor processor unit. Now, interestingly, this piece wasn't really based on some new news, but on CNBC getting what they called a behind-the-scenes tour of Amazon's chip lab in Austin, Texas. What I take from that is, one, Amazon is definitely trying to use its position in the cloud computing space, in which it holds 40% of global market share in 2022, as a lever to get people using whatever AI solutions they come up with, be it chips or something else. And second, the fact that they invited CNBC to their lab in the first place suggests that this is a battle that they are increasingly seeing as one that needs to be fought. In other words, they've been building this stuff for quite some time, but now they're doing active PR around it. Of course, given how much generative AI came up on every earnings call over the last few weeks, it could just be that every Fortune 500 company is basically forced right now to make sure that they are clearly articulating what their strategy is, and that pressure is just heightened for a big tech giant like Amazon. Moving over into the world of startups in the AI space, Anthropic, the creator, of course, of Claude, has taken on a new 9-figure $100 million investment from Korean telco giant SK Telecom. Now, Anthropic has a number of different points of differentiation. They were first to the field with a 100K context window, and even more than that, they've tried to position themselves as having a different approach to AI safety. Earlier this year, they announced their constitutional AI model, which was an alternative to different approaches to alignment like RLHF, or reinforcement learning from human feedback, instead trying to train the AI on a foundational set or constitutional set of principles from which it could infer and make decisions about how to engage with particular areas of ethical or legal complexity based on those underlying ideals. Now, SK Telecom had participated in Anthropic's $450 million raise just a few months ago, and it appears that this new money is part and parcel of a larger partnership through which the companies plan to, as TechCrunch puts it, co-develop a multilingual large language model customized for global telco firms. Quote, "The LLM, which SKT and Anthropic will jointly develop, will allow 4 global telco AI alliance members, including Deutsche Telekom, and Singtel, to offer AI developments customized to their users in each market. The LLM would support English, Korean, German, Japanese, Arabic, and Spanish languages." Another one that I wanted to flag briefly is the announcement by PlayHT of their new PlayHT 2.0 model. Now, I have used a couple of different models of voice cloning on this show. The first one that I used was PlayHT's first model, and then more recently I've been using 11 Labs' professional version. Well, PlayHT just released their 2.0 conversation text-to-voice AI model, and it looks really promising. One of the things that's most interesting is that they allow you to control it based on a certain emotion you're trying to convey. This seems like a super cool feature that is going to be highly useful for expanding the number of use cases that this sort of voice cloning tool can be used for. And so I wanted to highlight it, even though it's likely that I do a broader comparison at some show in the future. Lastly today, one story that I want to flag just because it's gotten so much traction on Twitter, even though it's incredibly stupid, is that some random global publication published a piece warning that OpenAI could go out of business by 2024 given how much it was spending per day of operations. It was from Analytics India magazine and frankly wasn't even really positioned as reporting as much as a thought piece. Everyone from AI influencers looking for a new narrative to AI haters who revel in any idea that there is a bubble here that is starting to burst published it breathlessly to Twitter in every version that you can imagine. This is, to be clear, a preposterous story. Not because it's not true that it's extraordinarily expensive to run ChatGPT, but because there is effectively an endless bucket of money available to OpenAI in perpetuity as long as people continue to use ChatGPT in anything resembling the way that they have so far. Stability AI's Imad Mostak put it really crisply when he said, "What is this rubbish? OpenAI lost twice that a day last year, and this year raised $10 billion from Microsoft, enough to maintain that burn for 37 years. This is cheap R&D relative to impact, way more bang for buck than Web3, Metaverse, or whatever." I bring it up not because I think that a ton of people are taking the OpenAI may go bankrupt story seriously, but just as a reminder of how important it is to be skeptical with any story you see out there right now. Like I said, whether it's someone who's just looking for any excuse to tear AI down, or someone who's all in on AI because it juices their engagement, keeping a critical eye is incredibly important. That's going to do it for today's AI Breakdown Brief. Thanks for listening or watching as always, and I'll be back soon with the main AI Breakdown.